Elton John created Tetris. Cool.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking Tetris, the movie. If you're here and you want to stack the likes on top of each other, it's a Tetris reference. Let's do it. You have a businessman and the inventor of Tetris who join forces in the USSR, risking it all to bring Tetris to the masses. This is a movie for kids, right? No. This is rated R for language, which isn't as big of a deal because it's being released on Apple TV Plus and I guess in theaters some places. But it's an R-rated movie about the behind-the-scenes drama of Tetris. Is this The Social Network, or is this just kind of a failed experiment or a failed game? Because that's what Tetris is.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
It's a pretty good cast all the way around. You have somebody like a Toby Jones who pops up as a character actor all the time, but Taron Egerton is the focus, is at the forefront. Last year, gave one of his best performances in Blackbird. I thought he was phenomenal in a movie like Rocketman, and I was excited to see him kind of take on that accent, deliver a compelling, behind-the-scenes drama type of performance. Austin, what do you mean? Well, I mentioned The Social Network, and when you have inventors inventing, creators creating, but also people trying to steal other individuals' ideas or take those ideas and make them international. And that's kind of what our main character is doing here. He fell in love with Tetris, the idea, the way that it worked, and he said, I think we can do something with this, but how does it work? The ins and outs of the project itself, the build, and how can we make those changes, implement those changes? Now, that's not as much of the focus. This movie is way more about the drama taking place in the USSR and combining forces with other characters as we go. And I really like what this movie did. Every time somebody joins the team, they showcase that in a graphic. Well, really, the whole movie is showing us these very 8-bit looking retro graphics that are kind of taking us on this journey that is fast-paced. There's a lot going on, and I think some people are going to watch this and say, there may be too much going on. Now, it isn't difficult to understand. The behind-the-scenes drama, it's laid out in a way that is compelling enough, but it's also fairly simple to gather all of this data as we're going, and I think that is, in a way, a testament to the screenplay. But at the same time, we're kind of jumping back and forth a lot, and I was watching this movie for the first 17 minutes. That's right, oddly specific, and 17 minutes in, so much had happened already, and I'm sitting back going, okay, we're moving really quick, we're taking in a lot of information, and there were 17 minutes at the beginning of this movie where I thought, we could have gotten so much more, and I could have learned so much more about the characters. Instead, I'm still kind of where I was at the beginning. I'm interested, but I'm not as invested. Now, that kind of changes later on as it starts to pull you in a bit more, but I will say, I do think the pacing is a bit too quick at points in this movie. But I want to go back to what I said earlier. The graphics, the way those graphics take us through, every time we move into the next phase of what's going on behind the scenes, it levels up. It says level 2, level 3. We go in and out of 8-bit graphics as we see buildings, and we're getting these interesting shots that are made more interesting and compelling by what they're doing with the style of this movie. So if there's one thing I can say about this film, other than the performances that worked extremely well and that did kind of allow it to stand out from a crowded genre, it was the style, because when you get into it, what's going on here behind the scenes of Tetris, and from the rights to who actually wants that intellectual property, to the fact that, you know, people in the country that they are in throughout most of this movie, they don't want this property belonging to anyone else. And he says it in the film, well, it's just a game. But to them, it's so much more than that. I can also see people watching this movie and thinking, to a degree, it kind of feels like an SNL skit, right? They're going through the very familiar biopic-ish dramatic history type of movie numbers to where you kind of hit every point you expect them to hit. It's people arguing with each other and drama. Now, it's interesting drama. There were certain conversations here that felt so, how do I say this, biopic movie-ish to where you're gathering that information and the information itself is compelling. It's just kind of the way it's presented to you. Yes, you have that style in between, but when there's so much of this to get the property of Tetris as a packaged together stylistic story showcasing, and that's one thing I still need to talk about, some really good performances. Taron Egerton is compelling in this role. I thought he did a nice job. It's not an Oscar-worthy performance, in my opinion. He does what he has to do, but there are moments where I felt him take over the scene and lead us in the right direction when some of the dialogue wasn't necessarily doing that. And I mentioned Toby Jones as well. He's great. I like that relationship with his wife and daughter, the fact that we would kind of every now and then give us some of that family story. I'll give you my score for this Apple TV Plus movie. If you're here and you enjoyed this review, you want to drop that like, that would help out the channel. Leave your comment. What is your favorite behind-the-scenes biopic? Mine is obviously The Social Network, but yours may be different. Tetris is a serviceable and somewhat compelling look into this fascinating true story. The style shines while the way it handles these conversations occasionally comes across as clunky. All in all, the fact that it's on Apple TV Plus and there are things about this film that I think people will enjoy, I would say if you have time, throw it on. Not a necessity. Regardless, thanks so much for watching this video. If you want to watch my review of Dungeons & Dragons, that's on the channel. Or if you want to see me at MegaCon this weekend in Orlando, come down there, say hi. That would be awesome. I'll see you guys soon.